Is Tanner Scott on your nerves because he leads the majors in blown saves this year? Then this is a show for you. We'll tell you who should close games for the Dodgers in the second half of 2025.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're not even 100 games into the season, and Tanner Scott is already tied for the most saves since 2020 for the Dodgers. Should he keep closing games for LA in the second half of 2025? Julio Urias is reinstated and can sign with any team that offers him a deal. Should the Dodgers take a look into him coming back? And despite Will Smith being one of the best catchers since 2021, can the rest of baseball start properly appreciating him? We'll be talking about this in today's show. He's Travis Rogers. I'm Harry Ruiz, two guys who talk sports for a living and bleed Dodger blue for life. We've been in the game covering pro sports for decades, but now we're bringing our passion to this podcast, and man, it's been a blast hosting this show together. If you're one of our early morning everydayers, keep it going after this. Catch Travis from 9 to noon on ESPN LA 710 and on the ESPN LA app, holding it down with the Travis and DeMarco show. As for me, I call games for the Las Vegas Raiders and USC football in Spanish. So my busiest time of the year is about to arrive, But there's nothing like sitting down and starting every weekday, diving deep into what I love most, which is talking Dodger baseball with you. And Travis, we're both on the same boat covering the NFL, me with the Raiders, you with the Rams. But man, talking Dodger baseball every morning for 30 minutes, that's my favorite part of my day.
Nothing like it. Nothing like it. Can't wait.
Exactly. Travis, the Dodgers return tomorrow with their first game after the All-Star break, where LA was represented by 5 players. None of them were relievers, though. Maybe because it has been a revolving door of pitchers out of the bullpen, and nobody has been a consistent force out of there for the first 3 months of the season. Tanner Scott leads the Dodgers with 19 saves, but also leads the big leagues in blown saves with 7. The big question I have for you is, who should close games for the Dodgers in the second half of the 2025 season?
Yeah, it's the number one question, Harry, right? I think it's the thing that probably Andrew Friedman and Brandon Gomes and Dave Roberts and, quite frankly, Tanner Scott are probably thinking about right now is who's going to get that ball in the biggest situations moving forward through the last part of the season. And certainly as you get into October and you start playing some playoff games, these innings, get more and more difficult. They get more and more challenging, and they happen earlier and earlier in a game. Right now it's kind of, okay, it's the 9th inning typically is the one that we focus on, but we saw the way the Dodgers went about it last year in the postseason. They started deploying high leverage relief pitchers. Michael Kopech was in the game sometimes in the 3rd and 4th inning, that the Dodgers were very strategic about. This is a high leverage inning. This is when, the top of the order is coming up, and this is when they want to shut it down. And I think that they're going to do that again this season. It may not be the 9th. The meat of the order may be in the 7th inning. If you get them out there, you don't even have to see them again in the 9th inning, and you can take a little bit of a different approach. I think the question, Harry, that you ask is a good one. And I think the answer, at least as we sit here on July 17th, is it's Blake Treinen, and he's not on the team. So, hopefully he comes back. Hopefully he is effective, and hopefully he's able to stay healthy through the rest of the season. That's a lot of hopefullys. Those are a lot of things that, one of those things go wrong, and we're right back to where we are right now. I'm optimistic about Treinen. I think that Treinen is their best relief pitcher. He's their most experienced relief pitcher in situations like this. And we've seen him when he's on. He's virtually unhittable. Like you just can't hit him when he's firing on all cylinders. But like I mentioned, there's a lot of hopefullys there. I'm still cautiously optimistic on Scott. He has not had the sort of season I'm sure the Dodgers were expecting. Doesn't mean he can't. Doesn't mean that he can't find his groove in the second part of this year, be really good in October. We're not going to remember that he got knocked around, in April. We're not going to remember that he had a bad middle of June in San Francisco. We're going to forget those things if he's able to do it. But I do think, Harry, that right now, if you were able to kind of peel back the heads of the Dodger brass, that has to be near the top of their list of concerns is, do you go get somebody? How much do you pay? And how much faith do you have in the guy that you gave a 4-year deal to in the offseason?
And it's crazy how the Dodgers front office, they invested $107 million between the contracts of Tanner Scott, Blake Treinen, and Kirby Yates this
Yeah.
offseason. And
Yeah.
still, here we are. When was the last time that the Dodgers had a bona fide closer? When was that? Kenley Jansen. And they got him out of their own farm system where he
Yeah.
was originally a catcher.
Yeah.
So I feel that we are getting close to a point where it's like, I understand we are in win now mode and that we have unlimited resources, and the front office is going to try to take advantage of that, because which team wouldn't want to be in that position where it's like, ownership is giving me a blank check to sign whoever I want. Let me sign two relief pitchers who were all-stars last year. They're not working. So remember, before Kenley Jansen, we also had a closer problem. I even remember Javi Guerra, who now is a
Yeah.
coach with the A's farm system. And for one season, he was great. The next, he wasn't. And then it's like, all right, let's try somebody else. I think we might be in a spot where let's look into our own players, the guys that we drafted, the guys that have been in our system for a while. And I know it's a different monster pitching in the 6th, 7th, 8th than it is pitching in the 9th. But I think it would be a good idea to take a look at an Alex Vesia, how he would do there. Or Ben Casparis and Jack Dreyer. They took the Dodgers in that game on Sunday against the Giants from potentially losing in the 10th to taking the Dodgers into the 11th and then winning it in the 11th. So I think it might be a good idea. I know that we're going to get Kopech, Gratterall, Treinen back once they're back from the injured list. But I think it would be a good idea to give the opportunity to one of the young guys.
I think it's an interesting idea. I think there are some potential pitfalls that come along with that. And I think there are two things that, well, really three things that we can kind of get into in this. Number one, stuff plays in big moments, right? Like the stuff has to matter. And this is why I think that Tanner Scott is going to continue to get shot after shot after shot. His stuff is still really good. Like when you look at the metrics, when you look at the way that his pitches perform, they're really good pitches. What he has not performed is locating those pitches. It's not that the pitches don't have bite. It's not that the pitches don't have life. It's that they're thrown to the wrong location. So I think that's why the Dodgers are still mostly bullish on him, is that the stuff looks good and stuff always plays. Number two, I think, is the thing you said is, you're going to have some guys that maybe haven't pitched in those innings before. Vesia, I think, is a good example. And I love Vesia. Like, I am fully in the bag for him. I think he's terrific. I think he's got a great heart. I think he competes like crazy. He hasn't pitched in a ton of those situations like we're describing. And this is why you see guys go to the guys they know over and over and over again. This is why Blake Treinen got 3 innings last year. This is why you see guys like Evan Phillips keep getting run out there. This is why you see a guy like I keep calling him Michael Kopech, going out there and having opportunities there. Guys that have pitched in those things, managers trust them. Even if they've kicked it a few times, even if they've had some rough outings, they're going to go to guys that have gotten big outs in the late innings before. They trust their veteran guys. And then the last thing I think, Harry, is simply, it's really hard to find somebody that's good at it year after year. The bullpen is the one thing that what happened last year has virtually no connection to what's going to happen next year, which has virtually no connection to what's going to happen the year after that. That when you get a Kenley Jansen, when you get a Trevor Hoffman, when you get certainly a guy like Mariano Rivera, those are the exceptions. Those guys that are just always giving you that same performance. Usually it's peaks and valleys, great performances, bad seasons. And this is one of the great challenges, I think, of any organization, any manager, any general manager, any team president, is trying to build a bullpen year for year, because they just never perform the same season in and season out.
Absolutely. And then you look over at a team like Houston, who has Josh Hader.
Yeah.
That contract is 5 years, $95 million, which when you put the averages, it's similar to what Tanner Scott is getting paid. But
Yeah.
Josh Hader, he is one of the best closers that we've had in baseball the last 5 years, between his time with Milwaukee, with the Padres, now over with Houston. So that's somewhere where it's like, all right, the money isn't being reflected in what's going down on the field. And the Dodgers, they are the team that is spending the most money as of late.
I still think too, Harry, there's a very good chance we're sitting here. We got a couple of weeks before the trade deadline. I think there's a better than average chance that the guy that's going to pitch those innings, if it's not Treinen, isn't on the team right now. Will be by July 31st, but it might be pitching in a different organization right now.
Yeah, Ken Rosenthal actually reported out while I was walking my dog. I was reading his article, and he says that Charlie Morton and left-hander Trevor Rogers, they are possibilities from the Baltimore Orioles to join the Dodgers via a trade before the deadline rolls through. So we'll keep those in mind and also keep an eye on that situation. But man, look at last year. The Dodgers had 29 blown saves in 2024, and the leader of the pack was Daniel Hudson with 7.
Yeah.
So that was less than 25% of the blown saves, but that just shows you the Dodgers haven't had a real closer since 2021 when it was Kenley Jansen. They tried it with Craig Kimbrough in 22. That didn't work.
Didn't work. It's really hard to say who it's going to be. You know, it'd be great to have a player like prime Kenley Jansen. You just go, okay, you're going to hold it down here at the end of the game and everything's going to be fine. But you just mentioned it. Last year, if I would have told you, hey, when it gets down to it, it's going to be Kopech and Treinen and Walker Buehler, you'd have been like, huh? And
especially
here we are.
The way that Walker Buehler was playing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's just there's a long way to go. Roles will shuffle. There's probably somebody in the starting rotation that will be in the bullpen by the time you get to the postseason. So there's a lot of road to go. And I'm not throwing in the towel on Tanner Scott. I still think that the fact that his stuff is still really good, if he can get his location, his command sorted out a little bit, and we've seen it. We had a good long run of about 6 or 8 weeks where he was really good again. I think that it's in there. I'm optimistic on him, but he's had just enough inconsistencies to where you at least have to consider some other options along the way, because when it gets into October, you got to at least have a pretty good feeling about who's going to go out there and get those big 3 outs.
The problem with Tanner Scott, and for those watching us on YouTube, he started down here and then he went up here and then he's going back down there, and it's like we need something consistent in this team. And I'll leave it at this. Another option that I think would be intriguing if he's still on the team after the trade deadline, Dustin May. I feel that he would be a great closer for 1 inning.
No, he doesn't throw enough strikes. He nibbles. Here, Harry, you're going to hear me say this. You and I are still getting to know each other. You can't nibble on the strike zone if you're going to pitch out of the bullpen. You cannot do it. You can't do it out of a starting position. And Dustin May nibbles around the edges. You have to attack. You can't pitch from behind. I know his stuff is electric. I know that he's got some guys that he throws some pitches that makes you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I saw. The man simply does not attack the strike zone enough to pitch out of the bullpen. If that's where they end up, something has gone haywire.
I'm just thinking maybe if you bring down his need to go for 5-6 innings to 1 inning, that would be somewhere where he would be more effective than throwing him out there for a long stretch.
It's an interesting idea, because I do think you could, with Emmett Sheehan pitching the way he is, if he took May's spot in the rotation as Ohtani gets stretched out a little bit, you put May in the bullpen and get a look at what you're describing, perhaps. But I need to see Dustin May throw a lot more strikes, be attacking that strike zone early, getting ahead. And the way he goes about it makes me want to pull what very remaining few hairs I have out of my head.
And one of the pitchers that closed one of the biggest games in the last 3 decades of Dodgers baseball just became available in free agency. In just a moment here on Locked On Dodgers, former LA pitcher Julio Urías has been reinstated for from his second domestic violence suspension. Will he receive another shot in the big leagues? We've all been there, getting ready for tickets to go on sale for the biggest concert of the year, only to wait what it feels like forever, and when it's your turn, no more tickets. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. My girlfriend and I, we wait until it's closer to showtime because that's when prices drop big time, saving up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. With Gametime, the price you see is the price you pay. No hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks for making us your first listen wherever you may be tuning in, either on your favorite podcast app or our YouTube channel. Smash that notification bell so you never miss a beat. Full episodes, hot takes, breaking Dodgers news. If it drops, you're on it. That's how you become an everydayer here on Locked On Dodgers. Julio Urías will forever be a part of Dodgers history as the man who got the final out in the Dodgers' first World Series championship win in 32 years. But he's also the only player who has been suspended twice for violating Major League Baseball's policy on domestic violence and sexual assault. Today, Thursday, July 17th, he was removed from the restricted list and is available to sign with whichever team he wants him. His agent, Scott Boras, told Bill Shaken of the LA Times that Urias has every intention to continue his career. Now, Travis, will there be a team willing to give him that opportunity?
It's such a good question, Harry, and I would love to tell you that I know the answer, but I really don't know. I've been covering sports and talking about athletes and teams for the better part of 30 years now, and I've seen guys come back from stuff that I never thought they would come back from. I've seen guys get second and third and fourth chances on things. I'm like, okay, that's the last time we're ever going to see that guy. And then you turn around and, well, there he is again, and he's back and he's playing well, and some really, ugly stuff along the way. The one thing that seems to be the exception to that is violence against women. Like that really does seem to be the thing that everybody's like, you know what, I just can't. It's bad PR, it's bad looks, it's the one thing that you can't really sell to your fan base and have them go, yeah, okay, we'll give you another chance. You can do drugs, you can do crimes, you can do all sorts of other things, and everybody's like, yeah, okay, give him another chance. This is the one that's like, yeah, man, I don't know. Now, that doesn't mean he's not going to get another chance. It only takes one. There are 30 teams, and all it takes is one person to meet with him, meet with his representation, hear his story, and say, okay, I think that he's ready for another chance. I think there's a couple of things that need to happen. Part of the return to play for whatever the offense may have been is a mea culpa, so some sort of public apology that at least rings relatively true, where people say, well, he apologized, let's give him another chance. I think you're going to need to see something like that. I think you're going to need to see a team that really doesn't have much to lose kind of take a shot there. That's not the Dodgers. The Dodgers have a lot to lose. The Dodgers are the one team I think that can't dip their toe back in the water. They've had it twice. I don't think they can say we're going to give him a third chance here. You can give him a first chance somewhere else. He's a very talented guy. He, like you mentioned a few times, that Julio Urias is a guy that won them a World Series back in 2020, was a huge part of what they did. But I think if he's going to get a third chance, I don't think it's with the Dodger uniform.
Yeah, the half-season suspension he just completed stems from a domestic violence incident where he charged his wife in September 2023 outside of BMO Stadium in LA, pulled her hair, shoved her against a fence, swung at her after the two were separated. That's unacceptable. No matter if you're an average Joe or a public figure, I know that he pleaded no contest on one of the 5 misdemeanor charges filed against him, and the other 4 were dropped. But you don't do that. You don't put your hands on a woman. In this case, it was his wife who was walking away from him. The video's out there. We've all seen it, and it's disturbing. And
it is.
If the Dodgers preferred paying over $20 million in 2023 for Trevor Bauer not to play on this team after he was reinstated from his suspension, I can't imagine the franchise going after Julio Urias as a free agent.
No, I can't either. I think that, look, I wouldn't be shocked if one of the 20 other 9 teams said, look, we've talked to him, we've listened to him, he's going to speak to you, he's going to address what had happened, and he'll do the apology to the best of his ability, all of those things. The Dodgers are the one team that, like, they gave him a second chance and it didn't work out. And here we are. Now he's looking for a third chance. And I just don't see it in Dodger Stadium. I just don't see it in a Dodger uniform. I hope it works out for him. I'm never rooting against anybody, really. I hope that he finds a way to get back to the big leagues, and I hope that it never happens again. I hope that, whatever happened, he learned his lesson, et cetera, et cetera. But the Dodgers need an arm, but I just do not see that happen. Because, we'll go. This is a while back, but they had an opportunity to make a move for Aroldis Chapman several years ago, and there was an allegation of something similar, an incident involving, I think it was his girlfriend at the time, maybe it was his wife. I really don't remember exactly, but the Dodgers basically decided, you know what, we're good. We don't need to dip our toe in that. So I do think there's a little bit of the track record of them walking the other way. You mentioned the other incident, of course, but yeah, I don't see it. I think you'll see him in the big leagues again, but I would be flabbergasted if it was with the Dodgers.
Yeah, and we've talked about the stuff off the field. Now let's talk about the stuff on the field. Last time Urias was on a mound was September 1st, 2023. That's 686 days ago, or 1 year, 10 months, and 17 days ago. He will need to get back in major league shape. And that on its own is a huge challenge, but even bigger is convincing a front office that he has changed. And there have been players in the past that have received the second opportunities. You mentioned Aroldis Chapman, also Marcell Ozuna, who are still active in the big leagues. But then there's others like Bauer, like Addison Russell, who both had to go to Japan and Mexico to continue their pro careers. Urias, he counts for 2 of the 19 suspensions handed with this policy since 2016. I honestly, even though I'm a huge fan of Urias, I don't see him getting another opportunity in the big leagues.
Well, you mentioned it too, Harry, that the last time we saw him pitch, he wasn't great. Like there was always questions about his physical fitness, of the struggles on the road, the struggles in day games. There were always whispers about this, that, or the other thing, and if you're going to have baggage, and he certainly does have baggage at this point, you better be extraordinary for me to take a chance on you. Look, and let's be honest about this. We're all adults. Special talent gets special considerations. You can do some pretty horrible things, but if you're a pretty terrific athlete, guys will look the other way. Teams will look the other way. Right before he went away, he wasn't special. He was a big leaguer, and he'd had success previously, but at that moment he was really kind of struggling along the way. So you're right. He's got to not only rehabilitate his image, he's got to not only convince a team that he has changed, that he's not going to have a similar incident moving forward, but he's got to prove he can pitch in this league again. And that, this is the best league in the world, and he's been gone for a long time, and trying to jump back in there and get guys out, that's a very big ask.
Crazy to think the Dodgers, Mike Brito scouted him, and he got signed when he was 16 years old. On his 16th birthday, he signed with the Dodgers. He's about to turn 29 next month. So it's been a while. We wish him the best as a human being to continue his life, but I just don't see a major league squad giving him a shot, especially the Dodgers. Yeah. Someone who fortunately off the field, on the field, has been fantastic for the boys in blue is Will Smith, who leads the National League in batting average. And next on Locked On Dodgers, we're going to dive deep into why does the media outside of LA overlook one of, if not the best catcher in baseball today. Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rogers on X and Instagram. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram and Threads, plus Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. Let us know if you think Julio Urias will get an opportunity to return to Major League Baseball, or if he will need to go the Trevor Bauer route and pitch in Japan or Mexico. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. The Dodgers are back in action tomorrow. You can go to Dodger Stadium and get your tickets on Gametime, and Will Smith will be in action. He just was in action with his first start in the All-Star game this past Tuesday, but somehow there always seems to be another backstop who outshines him in the national media. Buster Posey and Salvador Perez in 2021, JT Realmuto in 2022, Adley Rutschman in 2023, and now Cal Raleigh since 2024. He's generally considered a top 5 catcher. Dodgers fans, we love him. He's great both with the bat and behind the plate, but what does he need to do besides what he has already done to get the appreciation nationwide, Travis?
Yeah, it's a great question, Harry. And I think that Will Smith falls into a very specific category. And I'm sure if you went to the fans of 29 of the other teams in Major League Baseball, they've got a guy like this too. And what I'm talking about is the guy that you need to see every single day to really appreciate the scope and the totality of what it is that they bring to their team. That sometimes it could be a role player, a guy that gets a big hit off the bench, and then sometimes it's just one of your everyday guys that is so much better than a quick glance allows. Like when you look at Will Smith, he's not hitting home runs over the roof like Otani. He's not the greatest athlete you've seen like Mookie Betts. He doesn't have the iconic, fist in the air, walk off Freddie Freeman, first ballot Hall of Fame, 6'5", shoulders as wide as the Grand Canyon look. Like he looks kind of like a regular guy. He's got a mask on the entire time. He doesn't say anything. He goes out of his way to be, quite frankly, kind of dull. That's his brand. And I think that he cultivates it pretty effectively. But if you watch the Dodgers every night, if you watch where he hits in the order, if you watch how often he comes up with the game hanging in the balance and gets a big hit, you start to appreciate how good he is. Now, this year's a little bit different because he's putting up those numbers that you talked about. He's got the best batting average in the National League. He's got one of the top 5 OPSs in the National League. He's got the top batting average with runners in scoring position in the National League. Like he's got some of these big things along the way. So I think it's starting to happen, but you mentioned Cal Raleigh's got 38 home runs. Will Smith doesn't have something, he doesn't have that number that makes you go, wait, wow, we're not obsessed with batting average the way that we might have been 15 or 20 or 25 years ago. But if you watch the Dodgers night in and night out, he's not Otani, he's not Mookie, he's not Freddie, but he might be right near those guys as far as importance and consistency and steadiness. And Dodger fans know how lucky they are to have a player like that.
Yeah, if you're an everydayer here on our show for the last 2 weeks since Travis and I have been hosting, and also since Travis has joined the Locked On Dodgers podcast for the last month, we've spoken about pretty much how every Dodgers batter, including Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Teoscar Hernandez, have either struggled or are struggling at the moment. With Will Smith, that's not the case. Only twice this season has he gone consecutive games without getting on base.
That's crazy.
A streak of 2 games and a streak of 3 games where he went over and didn't get at least 1 walk. That's it. He's smashed.
Yeah, and Harry, and he's playing the most challenging position on the field. He's playing a position where you're getting nicked up and banged up. And as a quick aside, I think this is part of the reason they brought Dalton Rushing up the way that they did, is to get Smith off of his feet just a little bit with Austin Barnes on the roster. Austin Barnes was not an offensive threat at all. Dalton Rushing is. So it allows you to kind of to manipulate your lineup a little bit. I think it's going to keep Smith fresher. I think it's going to keep him longer. And look, I don't think he's going to win, but I'll tell you this. I think there's a world where he's going to get a lot of MVP votes, and I think people are going to start to get what we're talking about, which is, wait, Will Smith finished 2nd or 3rd or 4th or 5th or whatever it may be in the MVP voting. He's on the best team in baseball, with the best roster in baseball. He is vitally important to what they do.
Yeah, and I feel that he might not finish top 2, 3, 4, but I feel that for the first time in his career, he is going to get votes from people who actually stay up and watch late night baseball in the East Coast, or those that vote out here in the West Coast and show their appreciation, their love that Will Smith deserves. Because besides smashing the ball, he's also being patient with the best strikeout to walk ratio since he became the Dodgers full-time catcher in 2021. And I mean, for me, the cool part is that just like the players before him and AJ Ellis and Austin Barnes, he doesn't really care about having the spotlight on him, despite being one of the, and like you said, one of the most demanding positions in baseball.
He's a catcher, right? And the catchers are kind of hard-nosed, tough guys. I'm not going to be the guy that takes the victory lap. I'm not going to be the mega star. It just, the position doesn't really lend itself to that. It's too difficult. There's too much on your plate. He's not only trying to get all these offensive accomplishments that we're talking about, but he's had to deal with a pitching staff that has been completely obliterated throughout the part of the year. How many different guys has he had to try to figure out how to work with and how to get guys out and make sure that he knows how to attack opposing hitters? And just the amount of work that is on his plate day in and day out is amazing. And I talked about it on my radio show. I've mentioned it here before that the everydayers will remember that to stand out on the Dodgers is virtually impossible now that Ohtani's here. That Ohtani is just going to suck all of the attention out of the room. Like he pulls attention from Mookie Betts. He pulls attention from Freddie Freeman and Clayton Kershaw and guys that, Yamamoto. Like Ohtani is just the supernova in the baseball universe, and he's in your clubhouse. He's on your team. So if you are down that pecking order even a little bit, it's impossible to shine. But Will Smith's getting pretty darn close.
Yeah, we've been in locker rooms where you always have that one player that everybody absolutely wants to talk to, and then everybody else is there, and a lot of them you can just walk up and have a conversation with us that we cover teams with. Then there's the big ones where it's like you're just trying to sneak your microphone in to get the quote out of him and be like, all right, I delivered with that. And look, I'll say this. Yes, Dave Roberts also mentioned it, that he's up there as far as being overlooked when it comes to Will Smith, but not by Dodgers fans, not by the organization, because they gave him a 10-year, $140 million contract. He's the first catcher ever to get a deal that goes for a decade. Right now, he leads the National League in batting average, 323. Only player over 300 at the moment. That's crazy. In the National League, he's the only player at over 300. And the second place is Freddie Freeman, who's like at 294, I think. So
yeah, he's way ahead of the next closest guy, like you said, which is Freeman. And we may see a situation where we have no 300 hitters in the league for the first time in I don't know how long, but like I mentioned a second ago, rushing being available to give him a day off a week, maybe 2 days off a week as you get deeper into the season, I think will keep him a little fresher. And maybe we're talking about batting champion Will Smith as we go into the playoffs. That would be a real accomplishment. I haven't seen a catcher win a batting title since Buster Posey and Joe Mauer, so it's been a while.
And I'll finish it at this: let the big dumper, let Cal Raleigh steal all the headlines. Yeah. Will is going to keep being, in my opinion, the best catcher in baseball.
I wouldn't trade him for anybody. I wouldn't trade him for any other kid. Cal Raleigh may hit 1 million bombs this year. Good. That's not what the Dodgers need exactly. They need what Will Smith brings.
Exactly. Well, that's a wrap for today's show. Big thanks for me and Travis for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. If you're still craving more baseball talk, have the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night be your second listen. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find it on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Tomorrow, we're diving into a big one. Is Rob Manfred quietly laying the groundwork for a salary cap? And what would that mean for the Dodgers? Travis, that's a big convo knowing that the current CBA expires in December 2026.
Yeah, good luck, Rob. They've been trying to push this through for 70 years. Good luck with this.
We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it Dodger Blue.